Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink with a couple of autumn themed cards using some of the newest Pretty Pink Posh products. She just had a release for September and it's all like autumn, fall themed goodies and it's such a good release. I need more hours in the day. There's like stamp sets, there's another layering stencil, all the good things. I'll have a link to the release below the video. And yeah, let's just get into it. So I started with the layered apple stencils. This is a set of 3. And I'm using Neenah Desert Storm cardstock and Distress Oxide inks because I love how Oxide inks look on Desert Storm cardstock. They are just meant to be. Chef's kiss, all the praise. So I put the Desert Storm cardstock into my little Brutus Monroe stick and stamp mat, and I have the stencil buddy that goes with it. And I'm just holding the stencil in place though with a piece of washi tape. Because once I started, I realized I was like, ooh, if I do the Desert Storm cardstock and the inside of the card at the same time, that just makes sense. So that's what I did. So I blended each color over the stencil. So I started at the top and I used mustard seed first. And then I'd move the stencil over to what is the inside of my card. And I have Post-it tape there over right where the score line is. And then I would use the same color, but I'm using my blending brush, but I wasn't putting my brush back in the ink and I was using much lighter pressure. So I'm basically just kind of pulling off some of the ink that's already on the stencil so that it's not as intense because that'll be the inside of the card. So I just kept going back and forth like that. And I worked from mustard seed was my first color. And then I used Twisted Citron and then Candied Apple. So I'm blending that on, and again, much heavier hand of ink on the Desert Storm cardstock because this will be the card front. And again, also because, yeah, these inks just, I literally can't even. I just can't. I'm getting a kick out of how my camera is like really interpreting that Twisted Citron as like neon. Same with my photos at the end for the insides of the cards. I don't know. They just got blown out, but they are what they are. So anyway, much lighter hand, not re-inking my blending brush, blending that. And then my final color for these apples is Aged Mahogany. Another one I'm like a color I always get obsessed with this color around fall. It's gorgeous. I need to use Aged Mahogany more often. I used it the other day on one of the floral cards I did, and yeah, it was like Aged Mahogany, Tattered Rose, and Worn Lipstick, I think. Was that the colors I used? Loved it. Gotta do that one again. Anyway, same thing. Move the stencil over. I'm also working on my little Waffle Flower stencil mat, because that's going to come in handy in a second. So I'm kind of using that also to hold my ink pads while I'm doing this, because it's silicone, so it keeps them from sliding around. I was just kind of propping them up on the edge of the stencil mat there. So then the next layer of the stencil does the little stems. So tape that in place, and then I used walnut stain oxide ink over this. And it always looks like when stencils like this have more solid area, it looks like I'm using a ton of ink. I'm not at all. So blended that onto the Desert Storm cardstock, shifted the stencil over to the inside of the card, and took a second to line it up because it's now covered in ink. So got that lined up, and then same thing, just light, very light pressure. I'm glad I was using the washi tape to hold it because I did have to lift this off to see if I got all the stencils or all the little stems, and I did miss one right in the middle there. So quickly got that one. And then the final stencil in this set does the little leaves. Again, this is just, I couldn't get over the cuteness of this release. The last release I did a video as well, and it was Halloween, and loved. This one, again, like Pretty Pink Posh has been just knocking it out of the park. Loving it. Anyway, with the leaves, I used Rustic Wilderness oxide ink. So went over that, and then you've got this perfect, adorable stencil background. And as I'm editing this, I'm like, this would be perfect little stencil set to do like teacher cards, you know, end of the school year, just thank you teacher, etc. You know, it's just cute. I love it. So after I did that, again, shifted to the inside of the card, and then just very, very light little swirls using, you know, what ink is sitting there, whatever's left on the brush. And yeah, not bad for doing a card front and the inside in technically one pass, as it were. Of course, I'm going to add splatter. So to remove anything from the stick and stamp mat, it works best to kind of basically bend the mat away from the cardstock. This thing is pretty sticky. It holds it good. So I removed it from the mat, stuck it in my splat box, and I'm going to add white gouache and a little bit of water mixed together, and then use my fan brush to add splatter. Again, my editing, you know, future self here, this would look really cute to add like brown splatter. If I'd been thinking, I could have used like either walnut stain or ground espresso distress paint. Oh, that would look really good, but the white looks great too. So anyway, splattered that on the background, set that aside to dry. And then for my main kind of elements on this card, I'm using the Fall Basket wafer die set. Again, so cute. So cute. So I just die cut tons of just scraps of cardstock. For the basket itself, I used more Desert Storm, and I blended walnut stain ink over that. So you got your pieces to create your basket, and there's even this little handle piece as well. So for this one, I'm using the little handle, so I just quickly blended ink over that. And then, yeah, I just pulled out a bunch of little scraps of cardstock. There's little apple die cuts in this die set, bunch of different sizes and shapes of leaves. There's pumpkins, acorns. There's even a little mushroom, which I forgot to use. Ugh, so cute. There is tiny little wafer dies attached to the apples that actually die cut the stems separately. But honestly, I was just like, I'm not going to bother. I was like, oh my goodness, you guys, the absolute disaster I am dealing with right now as I'm doing like a bajillion videos. So anyway, rather than do those little tiny die cuts, I just used a Copic marker and just did a little quick, you know, with a E29 Copic marker. Quick and simple. So I also ink blended though all of these little apples. I just added the same Oxide inks. Just, you know, it gives them more dimension. So I went through and did just a bunch of little random ink blending. There's even this little wafer die that die cuts like the inside of an apple. It's got little stitching detail. So I used the Copic marker to add the color to the stem, as well as a couple little dots of it to enhance the little seeds. Inked the edges with the Candied Apple Oxide ink, and I was having so much fun playing with all these little die cuts. So after I was done all my ink blending, I also die cut. I used the Grateful Script wafer die. I really love the font choice that Pretty Pink Posh uses for all these wafer dies, and it's also in a lot of the stamp sets. I don't know what font this is, but I love it. I really love it. So I die cut this multiple times from dark brown cardstock and then stack them together with craft tacky glue. So it gives it that dimension, you know, that I just love. It's very difficult to see on camera because my dark craft mat, but you know. So just thin little bits of craft tacky glue, got those all stacked together. And then for my like card front for the background, I ended up die cutting a circle from vellum, and then I ran it through. This is my like 5-inch Xyron machine, and again, editing future self. I was like, wonder if I could have used a glue stick for this. I was talking about this in just a recent video about glue sticks, and I used to use glue sticks all the time. That used to be like just my go-to. And I used to make a lot of cards back in the day too. Before videos, I used to use glue sticks. Now I just use, you know, my craft tacky glue for everything. But yeah, if you don't have a Xyron, try a glue stick. You might get the same result. So anyway, I ran the vellum through the Xyron. The whole point being to get adhesive across the entire thing, because adhesive does show through vellum. But if you use something like a Xyron or potentially a glue stick, you won't see it. So I ran that through, and this just kind of frames, you know, my little basket and all of that, but it also enables, you know, all of us to be able to see through the vellum because I did not want to cover up any more of this background than I had to, but I still wanted everything else to, show up and kind of pop against it. So vellum circle it is. And then it's just a matter of creating my little basket. So I adhered all the pieces together and then filling it. And this, I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I have like off camera, like kind of above the frame there, I have just a little stack of all my little apples and leaves and all the little bits that I die cut from all those scraps. And I just start sticking them in and just building it up. Still not my forte. This is similar to, and I've mentioned this in other videos, like floral arrangements, like arranging die cut flowers or stamp flowers on a card. That's not my thing, or like I don't mind doing it. I don't have the eye for it. But regardless, I still enjoy this, and I was like, you can't go wrong with this, and you can't. I was like, these cute little apples and the little leaves and all the little things. I was like, oh, like it just takes care of itself. So I adhered everything, and then I adhered that big grateful sentiment right on top, and then all the little tiny leaves for like the apples and whatnot. That I found the easiest was just add glue where I wanted, and then I just picked up the little die cuts with my embellishment wand and pressed them into place. Easy peasy. So got those all like adhered. Once I was happy with my little scene, I'm then gonna go and add like highlights and whatnot with my white gel pen. It's not necessary, but I just wanted to. It just gives everything a little extra something. So I went in and just, no rhyme or reason, no thought of light source. I was just like, I'm just going in and doing this. So that's what I did. So I added that. And then I also added some of the new, because of course Pretty Pink Posh released some new pearls. So I added the pistachio pearls to this because the green was just, again, it was just perfect. So only adhered a few. So I did manage to get splatter and a form of bling onto these cards. So picked out a few of those, adhered those into place, and then that's going to complete the first card. Now for the second card, it's basically the same thing. The only thing I changed up was I'm using one of the other layering stencil set. This is the layered foliage. So this one's only a set of two. You have this piece and then the piece that does the spines or veins of the leaves. And with this one, I did the exact same thing. I put the Neenah Desert Storm cardstock into my little stencil buddy there, or stick and stamp mat. And then I have the inside of my card with the score line masked off. And then this one, I'm using mustard seed and then mowed lawn oxide inks, and doing the exact same thing, applying the ink over the stencil, over the Desert Storm cardstock first. And then without re-inking anything, I put it on the inside of the card and just very lightly blend that out. And then from the mowed lawn, I'm going to use spiced marmalade. And this time, usually like sometimes you got to be a little, when it comes to like going from like green to orange, it could turn a little, muddy, icky. One, this didn't, but also if it did, I wouldn't have worried about it because it's fall, leaves are literally turning those colors. So if it gets a little muddy, it would look fine. So after spice marmalade, I used crackling campfire, another just, it's that time of year, when I start getting into the, the fall and the Halloween and all this stuff, it's like those deep, intense colors, the jewel tones, it's like, yes, love. So anywho, after crackling campfire, I got the other stencil, got that in place, and then I just used the walnut stain again and did the exact same thing. Went over that. Once this is all blended, I will pop this onto the inside of the card and then lightly blend that out. And with both of these, I'm just going to write over it with a ballpoint pen. It'll be fine. I'm not worried about it. I'm not stamping any sentiments either. These are kind of more open-ended within reason. Like they're basically thank you cards. I think that's also another one. I love fall. I love fall. It is my favorite season. The colors, just everything. I love fall, but I also love fall releases from all the companies because a lot of it is like thankful and grateful themed. And that's what I make the most is thank you cards. So I'm here for it, Anyway, reused the white gouache Just reactivated it, added a bit of water to that, and splattered that on this background as well. And then with this one, I'm using the pumpkins from that little fall basket die. Well, I'm using everything, but I die cut some of the pumpkins. There's 2 different pumpkin sizes or shapes in that little fall basket set. So I did the same thing. I added the spice marmalade and then the crackling campfire oxide inks to these with my blending brush. Just, again, dimension, love. The pumpkins, I did die cut the little stems because they weren't as itty bitty as the apples. So those ones I die cut. And then I used a little acorn as well, and I blended the walnut stain over it. And I'm still kicking myself that I didn't use the little mushroom. It's so cute. So cute. So adhered the stems to the pumpkins, adhered the little tops to the acorn. And then I did the exact same thing as the previous card. Got my die cut circle from vellum, coated that with the ran it through my Xyron, used my bone folder to just press all adhesive in really, really well, pop that into place on the background, and then I'm going to assemble my basket. For this one, I'm not going to add the handle to it because I'm going to like fill it all up with pumpkins and apples. So I've got, again, kind of off screen there, I still have a bunch of like leaves and whatnot and little apple die cuts. So I'm just going to start sticking them in here until I'm satisfied with how much I've piled into here. So adhering everything just willy-nilly into place. And then I'm going to plop that onto my card front. And then with this card, I'm using the new Thanks script wafer die. And again, love. So in that one, same thing. I die cut it multiple times, stacked it together with my craft tacky glue, and then I popped that into place. I added white highlights again with my white gel pen. And then on this one, I used the sunset orange pearls to tie in with the pumpkins. And then I'll adhere that to my card base. And that's going to finish off these cards. Super, super fun. These were super cute. And like I said, this release is just, oh, there's so much cute stuff. The stamp sets. There's also another layering stencil, a sunflower one. I actually have that on order because the one I got was defective and all the fun things. When it gets here, hopefully I'll have time to use it because it's adorable. Check it out. I'll have links below. I'll have a link to my blog post. This is actually part of a blog hop. There's been tons of inspiration. I have so much to catch up on because I bet there's just a bunch of amazing cards to check out. So I will have links to all that in my blog post, which will be linked directly below the video. So you can check that out below if you are interested. Thank you all so much for watching, for thumbs upping, commenting. I very much appreciate it. Subscribe if you haven't already. I have a ton more videos coming. So thank you guys so much, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye.